Welcome back to the Radio Academy podcast. I'm your host, Georgie Jameson, and this week we meet the first of our new fellows from last September's Radio Academy Festival, the founder and MD of We Are Grape, Rachel Barton. We chatted about her career, working at Radio 1 and founding We Are Grape. But first I asked her how surprised she was to receive the fellowship.
Oh, Georgie, it was so bizarre. I was so surprised. I did not see it coming whatsoever. I mean, over the years, I'd looked at those list of fellows that are on the Radio Academy, now the Audio Academy's website, and just obviously recognised so many of the names on there. And it was just done in complete secret. I'd just come off stage having done a panel, and I kind of was about to go and kind of head off and find some friends. And then everyone was just like, oh, just stay here a minute, stay here. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then I saw my great friend Annie Mack walk onto the stage, and I was thinking, what's she doing here? She didn't mention she was coming. And then very slowly over the course of the next kind of couple of minutes, the penny dropped. And I was standing next to my friend Jenny Keogh and just holding her hand and kind of fairly terrified, because I think like a lot of the people perhaps in our industry, I'm not naturally comfortable on a stage. It's not my place of comfort, so to speak. So I was conscious I was going to have to say some words and try and make them make sense. But yeah, I was so unbelievably flattered. It was really unexpected and I couldn't quite believe it. And it was just a very special moment I'll never forget.
What does the fellowship mean to you?
It's given me a chance to reflect on my career because, again, perhaps other people will identify with this. You're so busy and you're so always thinking about the next thing. And it was a bit of a reset for me to kind of go, okay, wow, I'm so proud of this achievement for people that I really respect to think that I'm deserving of this accolade. And it just means so much. You do your best in your work, and you try and kind of do the best you can, make the best work that you can, be a good person along the way as well. In my case, I try and be a really good employer and do as much as I can for my team and for the industry in general. So it's a huge compliment and a wonderful, something I'm just very proud of. And I still can't quite believe it. The kind of award is on my mantelpiece inside my house. And I do look at it occasionally and be like, wow, I can't quite believe that happened.
Yeah. I think everyone kind of says that. And it's a beautiful vase now, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, absolutely. It's really lovely. So something that I will treasure forever.
Let's go back to the beginning then of not just We Are Grape, but you, Rachel. What's your earliest memories of radio?
My earliest memories of radio is being in the car with my mum and listening to Radio 1 and listening to the morning lineup. I think Steve Wright and Simon Bates and all that kind of era, and the kind of iconic jingles and the sound design that they used at that time. I just remember that really clearly. I also remember listening to local radio. I think my mum once kind of entered a competition on Fox FM and managed to get on. And I also remember listening to kind of iconic tracks like Reet Petite in the back of the car, and those kind of 80s classics that really stuck in my mind. And it was always on in our house, the radio, and it just was a source of kind of company and of interest, and I guess a kind of portal to the world, really, especially when I was really young and learning about the world. It teaches you stuff. It teaches you stuff about life and about what's going on, about other people. So I really remember that.
It's about connection, isn't it? You mentioned there your mum won a competition on local radio, and people get so excited if they hear their name or they get to go on a local station. It's a proper thrill, isn't it?
It really is. I think, it's such a powerful thing, like you said, connection and the feeling that you're coming together as a community. And I think that is something that radio still kind of is head and shoulders above anything else today. It brings people together. And as I said, there's nothing better than a shout out. Let's face it, I still love a shout out if I can ever get one.
Me too. You started your career at Radio 1. Tell us how that happened, because you went to do a little bit of work there and ended up staying, didn't you?
I did. I actually won a competition that I heard on Radio 1. At the time, I was working a production company that made jingles for radio. That's like my first entry into the industry. And I was just always have been a kind of Radio 1 obsessive. And I heard this competition. They were looking for 3 people to work in different areas of music specialism at Radio 1, one of which was a dance job. And I basically applied, and there was a 3 or 4 stage process to kind of get through, into the shortlist. And then the final stage, there was 10 people that had been shortlisted that were invited into Radio 1 in London, and they're all building on Yalding House. And we basically had a day there where we did a playlist meeting, and we had took a written article, and rewrote that as a news bulletin. And it was just the most amazing day. And I kind of obviously talked to various different people that worked at Radio 1 at the time. And I managed to get the job. And the job was a year's contract working on Pete Tong's show as a music trainee. At the time I was living in Southampton. I had to move to London in a month, completely changed my life, and started there. And I just remember walking through the doors and being like, I cannot believe that I'm in this radio station, because to me at that time, Radio 1 had been such an important part of my youth, and I'd listened to it religiously. I grew up in the countryside. There wasn't much else going on. So Radio 1 was really my portal to this exciting world, and particularly dance music, which had always been my passion. But it was such an incredible experience, not only working on Pete Tong's show with the team, but I was lucky enough to spend time in different areas of Radio 1. So I spent time with the marketing team, with the press team, the live music team. I went to Glastonbury and sat in the truck behind legendary sound engineer Mitty Adhikari and watched him kind of mix Paul McCartney live to air, and it was incredible. And then fortunately, during that initial year's contract, kind of about 8 months into it, Ian Parkinson, who was the head of Specialist at the time, came to me and said, "Oh, well, we're launching this new show presented by a girl called Annie Mac, and we'd really love you to be the broadcast assistant." And Sam Moy was the producer. I was like, brilliant. I kind of went worked with that team, and we launched Annie's show, and then kind of rest is history a little bit, I suppose.
Yes, it stayed for 10 years. I mean, you are a massive dance music fan, so to be able to go and work at Radio 1 and work with Pete Tong and then Annie Mac, I mean, you just must have been in absolute heaven.
I mean, I was. It's such an amazing experience. I mean, I was terrified of Pete to start with, obviously. Absolute legend. I remember meeting him and just like looking completely terrified and kind of shaking his hand, and he was very sweet. Didn't say a lot to me for a while, but gradually kind of we built that relationship. I think specialist DJs, they thrive on teams that show passion and expertise and love for the music that they're about. Hopefully I kind of built that kind of connection with Pete. And then obviously with Annie's show, Annie was a kind of, at that point, she really was brought onto the station to be almost like one of the audience listening and consuming dance music. So there was these big superstar DJs like Pete and Judge Jules and other people like that, Fabio and Groove Rider. But Annie was very much on the dance floor instead of playing the tunes at that point and being the DJ. And that was brilliant to me because that's where I was and that's where I was spending my time as a huge music fan, but very much on the dance floors. And it kind of with that perspective. And that's how we kind of put together her show and how we thought about the audience at that time of Annie being very much amongst them. Obviously, she then went on to become a superstar DJ herself, which I'm so proud of her. And she's done amazing. It was a dream come true. It really was. And I just remember working so hard and just because I just absolutely loved it. It didn't feel like a job, to be honest. So
I think that the best jobs don't, do they? If you find something you love, you never do a day's work in your life, they say,
That's
don't
what they say. Yeah.
So you started We Are Grape in 2011, starting your own business. What have the challenges been that you've faced, particularly as a woman in the audio industry, having your own business?
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I started Grape was because I had an amazing kind of 10 years at Radio 1. I'd been lucky enough to do so many fantastic things. And I just got to the point where I just wanted to see what else was out there as well. And I saw that there were other indies that were able to work with the BBC, but also work externally, for different companies and with different clients. And I just really liked the feel of that. So it was a bit of a leap of faith, but I thought, let's just go for it. And the challenges, well, obviously the instability that, you're obviously having to make sure you're making any money and building relationships and always thinking about what's coming next. I mean, it's all very well if you're busy 1 month, but what's going to happen in 6 months' time if the work kind of drops away? So it's always having kind of your mind thinking ahead and thinking about the pipeline. But as a woman, there weren't really at that time. I don't remember any other kind of female founders, particularly in the industry. But I think my time at Radio 1, I never felt like a particular difference, I guess, because I was fortunate enough to work on these, shows that I'd loved. And Radio 1 has always been a very kind of lots of females and lots of males working together. It's a very equal place to be, which I know that isn't the case in different industries and, even within different areas within our industry. I don't remember feeling, oh my gosh, this is going to be weird. But I do remember feeling quite often when I was on calls and meeting clients and meeting people that often I was the only, or if not one of the only women in the room. And it has got better. since 2011. But, I still sometimes find myself on an all-male call and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. It's definitely improving, but obviously there's always a way to go.
Something you pride yourself in at We Are Grape is operating with integrity. Why is that so important to you? And tell me more about that ethos within the company.
I remember when I started Grape, I just wanted it to be a place where people felt listened to and heard and cared for. I wanted to be an employer that, thought about my team and made sure that they were happy and that they were enjoying their work and that they had a voice and they were able to work on shows that they love, were able to communicate that. Sometimes people are kind of slightly put where they think the senior team think they need to be. And I didn't want that. I kind of wanted people to be on shows that they were really passionate about and that they had expertise in. That feeds into that kind of integrity, but also around clients and just generally the way that we operate. I guess it's just how I try to be as a person. I'm a terrible liar. I can't do it. I go bright red. I could never be on the traitor.
I couldn't either. I'd be rubbish.
I'd be awful. I cannot believe how they do it. But anyway, it's just not the way I'm built. So I think, it's just operating with integrity just means in every decision we make, we try and go, okay, is this good for everyone involved? Another example is we won't pitch for everything. If something comes along, even if the guide price is a really impressive amount or, potentially the profit will look really good. If we're not equipped to do it, if we don't have the expertise, we're not going to force that to happen. We're not going to pitch for everything that comes our way because of that. If you just try and think about your own values around that and try and just do a good job and be the best you can be, I think it's kind of stood us in quite good stead.
Now, another USP of We Are Grape is you create work for a younger audience. I know you're a massive dance music fan, but what's made you want to specialise in that area of younger audiences listening to audio?
I think it's definitely the hardest challenge. As we all know, young audiences have a million things to distract them, and the attention spans, as we know, is kind of changing, certainly. So I think I love the challenge, first and foremost. I think it's really, really important. And I believe in radio and I believe in audio, and I want things to obviously sustain into the future. And the only way to do that is to kind of seek those young audiences and start their love of audio as early as we can. I guess like mine was, so I suppose that's a motivation. And also, I suppose when we're talking specifically about dance music, that really is the kind of time in your life in your late teens and your 20s and you're going out with your friends and you'll go to a festival, you might go to Ibiza or wherever you might end up. Dance music can be your soundtrack to that. Obviously, people like different types of music and that's totally brilliant. But for me, certainly, I just remember dance music being my companion through those incredibly exciting times when I was really young. The team that we have at Grape, they are a lot younger than me now, as they should be. And they are the people on the dance floor and seeing new acts and bringing them through. And they are incredibly important to Grape. They are the kind of at the beating heart of what we do, certainly for Radio 1. When we're talking about younger audiences, it's definitely a challenge because we know that they are tricky to engage with audio. But yeah, we love doing it.
And it's not just music, the programmes that you curate at We Are Grape, is it? I mean, there's speech audio as well. How do you try and pitch that for a younger audience as well?
I mean, what we tend to say at Grape is we always centre what we do around music in some way. So whether it's kind of music, a speech story about a music topic or an artist or some kind of interesting story that's rooted in music, that's the kind of speech content we'll do. But yeah, predominantly the vast majority of what we do is music radio. Again, it's kind of case by case. We're not the type of company that has 10 commissions for Radio 4 at any one time. It's choosing what story we think that the young audiences will want to hear about and trying to use all our learnings that we have from what we do already in terms of kind of engaging that audience and speaking to them and making sure that they are engaged, basically.
What do you think's been your proudest moment so far in your career?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say starting the company, probably. Or first of all, getting the job at Radio 1. I mean, it's still, as I said, it was a real sliding doors moment. I sometimes think, what would I have done had I not got that job? And I hope I would have ended up in music in some way. I hope I would have ended up in music radio. But even to kind of, get a foot in the door and that opportunity was just so incredible. And then, I suppose starting Grape and then most recently the fellowship, it felt just such a lovely moment. As you get older, it's just a lovely way to acknowledge the journey so far and hopefully a bit more to come. I said to my husband when I got home, I was like, does that mean I can retire now? Is that it?
Is that the gold watch?
Yeah, exactly. Should I go? But I don't want to go just yet.
No.
There's lots more to do.
Not at all. What's been your biggest surprise?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's not a great example, but I suppose what I hope that I've kind of got better at is just learning about how to work with different people. I look back when I was younger and I was very, my way was I thought the only way that things should go in a way, as in kind of you don't perhaps understand the complexities of different people and how they like to think and how they like to do things. And I think as I've got older, I've got better at understanding that. And I always respected it before, of course, but it kind of, I suppose I used to get quite kind of confused and frustrated about it. But these days, I suppose it's being nimble and knowing that people like to do things in different ways. And thank goodness for that, because if we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. I suppose it's not the best answer, I suppose.
But it's something that surprised you about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot on the podcast at the beginning of 2026 about career advice for young people wanting to get into the industry, or anyone wanting to get into the industry, either moving your career on or getting started. What's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone listening right now who wants to work in audio?
I think they have to be completely immersed in it, that in any shape or form, find the passion, whether it's speech radio, music radio, podcasts, whatever type of audio you love, become an expert in it and absolutely live and breathe it. Because if you have expertise in that area, undoubtedly you are going to have good ideas and a really good perspective. And then when you kind of hopefully meet people that can offer you opportunities, try to kind of wow them with that. It's about kind of doing the graft and doing the homework and really kind of finding your niche and learning as much as you can about it. And also just trying to be original as much as you can. It's difficult because obviously sometimes there's less opportunity than perhaps there might have been a few years back. If you have belief in yourself, and I think, again, if you've done that homework and you've really immersed yourself in your specialism, I think people see that and recognise that.
What's next for you, Rachel, or We Are Grape?
We are in big pitching mode at the moment. We've kind of come back after Christmas and had a super busy few weeks of working really, really hard, pulling things together. So we are keen to launch a couple of visual podcasts this year. Again, thinking about our kind of what we do at Grape. So kind of whether it's kind of serving young audiences or reaching younger audiences, or it's music projects, we're really keen to kind of go into that area. Obviously, it's a massive growth area. Lots of people are doing it and doing it really, really well. That's been a really exciting thing to see in terms of the industry as a whole. And then, just continuing our slate and the high standards on our existing slate. We produce 14 weekly shows for the BBC, which keeps us really busy. So it kind of balancing that, continuing to do a really, really good job. And then also, looking to push on in terms of visual podcasts and in other areas.
A big thank you to Rachel Barton for being my guest. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods. And if you fancy leaving us a quick review, we'd be ever so grateful. Thank you. Our next Foot in the Door event is at the University of Essex in Colchester on the 12th of March. It's a fantastic day of talks, speed networking and advice on getting started in the audio industry. Keep an eye on our website for the names of guest speakers and to book your place. Go to radioacademy.org/training. Next week, we meet another new fellow of the Academy, Content Director of Jazz FM and Magic Classical for Bauer, Nick Pitts. I'll see you next week.